All right, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam, Rasulullah, we're back. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger. As to what follows, family, friends, foes, haters, hatettes, welcome back to the features. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart whatsoever. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Uh, and before I begin, please hit me up with that thumbs up, do that hitchhike for me, subscribe, share, give it a thumbs up if you can hear me. This topic is an extremely important topic. I'm going to be talking more from, you know, my personal thoughts, but it's a very, very, very important topic. And in order for us to move forward as a people, we have to understand the consequences of certain behaviors and the way that we perceive ourselves as a people. So please please subscribe, please share, please hit me up on Patreon. Please tag your friends right now, right? Because this is gonna be a hot one, inshallah. So uh, before we begin, I want to remind you guys that during the 2020 elections between the Democrats and the Republicans, um, we saw some certain behaviors between both parties that we haven't really seen before, and that is directly because of this push in 2020 towards either black rights or white supremacy due to the George Floyd protest. And what we found was many people were essentially uh, they were banking and they were profiting off of, again, the suffering of black people. And one of those people just happened to be Jim Crow Joe, right? Joe Biden, as we know, right? He's just one of those people who ended up, riding the backs all the way to the presidency of the black vote. And we were told that as black people, if we don't vote for Joe Biden, that, the world is going to end and we're going to go back to slavery and all kinds of craziness like they do, like your democratic elite do, right? However, there are some underlying issues within the black community itself which cause us to keep repeating inappropriate behavior. And that is the way that we see ourselves in society. And since we see ourselves in society in a manner which lacks dignity and respect for our own selves and our own people, then why would anybody else have any respect for us? If you understand what I'm saying. If you don't respect yourself, then how can you expect other people to have respect for you when you yourself, you don't respect yourself? So the reason why I chose this particular topic is because, as you're, on social media, you see a lot of things, strange things and whatnot, and you see the different behaviors, especially among the Muslims themselves, right? So you see how certain Muslims behave, and then they have the nerve to wonder why black people are in the condition that they're in. You understand? So going back, I want to take you back to some previous videos I did concerning, your irrelevant da'is, your irrelevant dawah groups, how they turned the masjid into the church in order to pacify and dumb down the people so slow that they don't actually do anything for themselves. But there's another side effect to that dumbing down, and to that that pacification towards Black people. And that is what you see now is a steady stream of Black people returning back to their Blackness. They would rather turn back to their Blackness than be associated with your irrelevant da'is. You understand? This is the next logical step. You can only be told for so long that you and your people don't matter until eventually, you know what? The people that are telling us that me and my people don't matter, guess what? I'm not going to vibe with them. This word vibe, it's a colloquial term. You know, it's like a type of slang, right? It's a short version of the word vibration. I'm going to get a little bit deep for you now. It's a short version of the word vibration, right? Vibration, it comes in wavelengths. You understand? You know, certain wavelengths and frequencies, you don't cause sound and whatchamacallit, and earthquakes and movement and whatnot. You understand? So when you say that we are not vibing with you, it means that we are not on the same frequency as you. We are not on that same wavelength as you. We ain't trying to hear what you're trying to tell us. Because the frequency of your noise is not hitting us in our hearts. To us, that sound, that noise sounds like the barking of dogs. And this is the natural way for Black people. When you keep dogging us out for decade after decade after decade, eventually it's going to reach a point that we don't vibe with you. You understand? And this is what's happening. And we see it happening right before our eyes. What we see is the Black awakening happening before our eyes. But what I want to ask you is, how far can the Black awakening go if we continuously consider and call ourselves niggas, bitches, hoes? What kind of nation does a nigga build? A nigga can't build anything. All a nigga does is build for white supremacy. What kind of nation is a bitch going to build? A bitch can't build anything. A bitch can't raise a child. And what we see among the Black circles is inappropriate and undignified, dishonorable behavior amongst Black people. And it's being carried out and fostered and nurtured within the Black community through the means of social media, through the means of, your entertainment. As you know, all of our entertainment has been hijacked. All of our music and our television has been hijacked by white supremacy to put in front of you a certain image of Black people to keep you at a certain level. Now, what does that have to do with Joe Biden? I'm getting to that, right? Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, right? Now, again, because, I'm on social media and I see certain behaviors, I see Muslim women with hijab and whatnot talking about, I'm the type of bitch that this, and I'm the type of bitch that. And these are Muslim women. within the black community, calling themselves bitches, you know, and brothers, black men calling themselves niggers and whatnot. So if you have this type of undignified look or outlook of yourself, what are you really going to build? You know, it's not just words. Words in itself, again, it's a frequency, it's a wavelength, they're vibrations. And whatever is going on in your mind will eventually be expressed on the tongue. You understand? So, because in your mind, you subconsciously see yourself like that, you see yourself like the entertainers that you see on television, you know, with these uncouth, rabid, unkempt, unclean people who constantly degrade themselves and degrade our women. You subconsciously internalize that and then you express it with your tongue. Because if you were not internalizing that, you would never be able to express it with your tongue. And not only do you express it with your tongue, you know for a fact that you express it with your actions as well. And it comes out not on a personal level, but on a communal, societal level. Now, back to Joe Biden. Back to Joe Biden. The reason why this society is investing a lot of time, money, and effort to mass produce niggas, bitches, hoes within the black community is because they can control certain outcomes, which then furthers white supremacy. And when you subconsciously in your mind internalize your existence as the thing that they have pushed on you, you now become the resistance of black upliftment. You understand? What's the proof? What's the proof, Bilal? I'm going to read something, okay? This happened last week. I was going to do this video. I was going to make this video last week, but even right now, I just came from an anti-racism forum for Ottawa, right? The city of Ottawa, for the school district. And I came right out of that into this live right now, right? So, excuse me for sounding a little bit tired or worn, but, that's, if I sound a little bit tired, that's why, right? So, but I'm trying to push this out for you guys so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So this, I'm going to read from you here from the Washington Post. How a Biden presidency could advance transgender rights and lead to backlash. All right. So anyway, this article, this was written, let me see, where's the date here? I had it just right here. This was written on last year, November 17th, 2020, right? Over here, this article is essentially, foreshadowing if Joe Biden became president, how it would further transgender rights. You understand? Last week, the Biden presidency, they had, not only did they give the transgender, the LGBTQ, some incredible rights that they didn't have before, but they used the 1965 Civil Rights Act in order to further those same rights for the LGBTQ community. Now, that in itself that by itself is not really shocking because they're liberals. You know what I mean? This is what they do. But remember what I told you, that the LGBTQ community, the feminist movement, the women's suffrage movement, all of it, okay, all of that stuff has deep roots in white supremacy. The women's suffrage movement was used to derail, uh, you know, the veterans of World War One and Two from getting their rights as Black people, and they used that women's suffrage movement instead of giving the perks that were promised to Black soldiers, they gave it to white women. The what you call it? Affirmative action. Affirmative action was specifically meant for Black people, specifically, right? The whole point of affirmative action was to force white supremacist, elite to hire Black people in order to bridge the wealth gap between Black and white. And what is it used for today? It's used to hire white women. LGBTQ was rapidly advanced under Barack Obama, rapidly advanced. Mind you, Barack Obama was president of the United States for 8 years. 8. And he did stuff for LGBTQ. He did stuff for illegal immigration and DACA. And, he did stuff for all kinds of people. But what did he do for Black people? So, not only did Joe Biden, not only did he further the cause of the LGBTQ movement, but he is actually in talks to put sanctions on other countries. I repeat, he wants to put sanctions on other countries who do not want to fall in line with the rights with the LGBTQ. What's the problem with this? If you're Black and you're smart, you knew instantly from the time I said it what the problem was. You know from the time I said it what the problem was. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. Make sure you tag your friends. We're going in hot. We're going in hot. One of the countries that he wants to sanction is Ghana. And I believe Nigeria is on that list as well. So you can imagine, these are the same people that brought you Jim Crow. They brought you police state. They brought you, redlining and locking out Black people from capitalism and on and on and on. But now they want to be the moral authority to enforce sanctions on other countries for LGBTQ. If you've been listening to my videos for a while, you ain't really surprised, because I keep telling y'all we need to leave these people alone, stop asking them for stuff, and do our own thing. Because as long as you're asking these people for things, you'll never get it. And this is why they mass produce niggas and hoes and bitches. Because a nigga doesn't build anything. A nigga doesn't think. A bitch doesn't do anything. A hoe doesn't do anything. They don't think for the people. This is why they do that. Because you are easily controlled. And then you have the nerve to turn around and ask why this is happening. But this is not the killer here. Joe Biden, since he became president, he himself has done things for who? The illegal immigrants, right? He's done things for them, right? Illegal immigrants. People are not even immigrants in the States. He's done things for them, right? He's done things for LGBTQ. This administration has now done things for even the Chinese Americans, right? Trying to enact anti-Asian hate laws into effect. And who were the people waiting 18, 19 hours in line, long lineups for blocks and blocks and blocks to vote for Joe Biden? Who was it? I'm asking you, who was it? Who were the people that were lining up 10 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours in line to vote for this man? Who was it? I'm asking you, answer. Somebody answer. Black people, exactly. Exactly. And it was all over the news and everything. How black people saved America again. Black people, they did it. They did it again, right? But you know, that's not even a slap in the face. That's not even the slap in the face. I'm going to play something for you guys. Okay? I want y'all to listen to this. 1 second, y'all. See if I got the right one here. Yeah, I think it's this one here. Yeah. Okay, listen to this.
Recording. I'm the first person, black or white, who called attention to the fact that you were finding that there was the rate of people who are African Americans are dying was 3 times that of white people. I don't carry around a stamp on my head saying progressive and I'm AOC, but I have more of a record of getting things done in the United States Congress than anybody you know. Anybody you know. By 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me?
Wait. Brakes. Put the brakes. Put the brakes on. You know it's Joe Biden, right? Let me give you some background first before you guys lose your minds, right? Do you know who Joe Biden is talking to in here? Do you know who Joe Biden is talking to? He's talking to your irrelevant, tired, broke down civil rights leaders, including Reverend Al Sharpton. Did you hear me? Joe Biden is talking to not the people on the street, not some college university students. He's talking to your civil rights leaders. Your civil rights leaders, including Reverend Al Sharpton. But that's not even the worst part. What did he say? Listen, y'all. Listen again. I don't think y'all caught that. Listen again.
There's no recording. I'm the first person, black or white, who called attention to the fact that you were finding that there was the rate of people who are African Americans are dying was 3 times that of white people. I don't carry around a stamp on my head saying progressive and I'm AOC, but I have more of a record of getting things done in the United States Congress than anybody you know. Anybody you know. By 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics. who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do. Let's get something straight. You should.
What? You see, this right here. What did he say? He said by 2040. See, this is why you are getting all the work from white supremacy that you're getting today. Because they know their demographics. They study this stuff. They study this stuff. They know who's who and who's what. And remember, I think my last video before, I was telling you about population control and what it's about. And he's saying it. He's saying it. By 2040, this country is going to be minority white. And you guys, meaning you black people, are going to have to work with the Hispanics. Why? Because the Hispanics are going to outnumber you. Do you understand me today? So if you are a nigga and a bitch now, then by the time 2040 rolls around, yes, Adrienne Hall, white genetic survival. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she wrote books about that. She did interviews about that. She's been calling this out for the last 40 years before she even died. White genetic survival, that's what it's about. And he's saying it. He's saying it. You know, all of this culture, this type of world star hip hop culture that black people have fallen in love with. You know, white supremacists, they use that. You know, they use that stuff. They spread it around amongst their own people, and they use it as teaching tools to show why these niggas and bitches should be enslaved. Do you know they legit actually use that in their white supremacist circles? World star hip hop. And some of you Muslims, you're sitting there watching what's those shows? Housewives of Atlanta, Love and Hip Hop. Wallahi, I've never seen an episode of any of these shows. I've never seen them. And I can't even imagine myself or stomach myself watching this nonsense. I can't. As a Muslim and as a black person. Because it's degrading and it's beneath me. I'm going to say that again. It's degrading and it's beneath me. There are certain standards that you should have as a black person. And if you're Muslim, your standard should be 1,000 times higher. You have to try to have the standards of excellence, not debauchery. And he's not talking to anybody. He's talking to civil rights leaders like that, telling them to their face, I ain't doing nothing for you. He didn't say it like that, but with his tone, that's what he said. I ain't doing nothing for you niggas. You understand? That's how it works. That's how it works. The talk of reparations. Reparations is a claim to justice for black people, correct? If these people were just, if they had any justice at all, they would pay the foundational blacks of the West reparations. It's a no-brainer. It shouldn't even be an argument. But because they don't see you as human beings, who historically has gotten reparations from these people. Japanese got it. Cubans got it. Who else? The white slave owners, I'm going to repeat, the white slave owners of Britain got reparations for losing their slaves. And that debt was paid, I think, in 2017 or 2018 or so. Recently, it was paid off. Not long ago. We're talking about a debt that was accrued by the British government, not for the slaves, but for the owners of the slaves. Are you understanding me? For the owners of slaves. And your black and Muslim dollars went to go pay off that debt for slave owners. British slave owners got reparations. Germany got reparations. Every year, your American tax dollars pay $30 billion to Israel. That's reparations. But the 400-year slave who was not brought here as an immigrant, we were not here as refugees. We were here building up white supremacy. We were the ones, again, according to you, who saved America in 2020. And you are telling us about your white genetic survival and why you can't do anything for black folk. And you black folk better go work with the Hispanics and stuff. You know, historically, black people have always been working with Hispanics anyways, right? But you got to understand, Hispanic is a culture. Black is a race. Hispanics were not brought here for much chattel slavery. Excuse me. They weren't brought here for that. We were brought here for that. And because they easily, and I mean easily, control every aspect of the things that you like to watch, you continue in that cycle of that nigga bitch cycle, just producing more niggas and bitches and more niggas and bitches over and over and over again. And it doesn't end. And so for me, what I always advise the brothers and sisters, always, you know how I advise you guys, you know, lay off the social media. I always say it, you know, lay off the social media, read, and stick with those people who you know who are better than you, who can improve you. Because we got so much work to do. There's no shortage of work in the black community. You know, when you're Muslim, though, it's a bit different, right? Because if a black person works for his community, yeah, he's doing it for the black community or whatever. But for a Muslim now, if you're black and you're Muslim, this is a case of amana. You know, amana? It's like a trust. It's like a covenant between you and Allah now. Because you are put on this earth to worship Allah. And you see this massive problem in your own community. And you see it with your own eyes. Now, it's almost like it's wajib. It's like you have to fix your community. You have no choice. Because how are you reading the Quran with all these prophets, prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet, stories in the Quran of all these prophets fixing their communities, in their community, calling their own people to justice and the worship of Allah, and you can't do it. You can't do it. And every prophet in the Quran does it. All of them, without exception. But you're not going to do it. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. And so, like I said in the beginning, that's why we don't vibe. You find black people who don't vibe with that anymore. We ain't down with that. We know our problems very well. And anybody who's coming to us now and trying to vilify us and undermine our pain and our suffering, telling us how it's not that bad. They're trying to tell us that our 400 plus years of hell that we caught in the West ain't that bad. And that, in Islam, we don't handle issues of race because that's racism. Our fitra, our own fitra that Allah gave us, causes us to hate that. And so we are left to take a position. Either we're going to take that position of that irrelevant dawah, or we're going to use this Quran and the Sunnah to help our people. We can't wait for, in my humble opinion, we can't wait for white folks to decide that it's time to give us reparations. They ain't got no excuse to give us no reparations. They really have no excuse. It's time for us to stand up to them like Musa stood up to Fir'aun. We have to stand up to them and tell them, look, Allah allowed us to suffer by you for all these years, yes. But guess what? Our people are accepting Allah, which means that your days are numbered. So you have two choices. Two. You can accept Allah, ask Allah for forgiveness. Allah will forgive you, and you'll help our people. Or us, the children of your slaves, will raise our hands before every Fajr Salah. We'll raise our hands in dua, and we will ask Allah, the one who created us and the one who created you, the one you think that you are self-sufficient, you don't need this Allah, the one you think you don't, we're going to raise our hands in the third of the night, and we're going to ask Allah for something better. We're going to ask Allah for something better. And believe you me, Allah, He's shy that his slave raises his hands and gives him nothing. And there's no barrier between the dua of the oppressed and his Lord. So you keep your weapons and your training and all of this, all these crazy things that you do to us. You speak to civil rights leaders like children. Meanwhile, giving everybody all kinds of rights and giving the ones who built the West nothing. And then you order other people to look down on the ones that you oppress. So much so that everybody loves the oppressor and hates the oppressed. They all love the oppressor and they hate the oppressed. And you think that Allah doesn't see that? Is that what you think? There's a new day coming. The awakening is happening. So I've been on for a while now, Ikhwan. Sorry for taking long. Let's see. Can the wider community be a part of your cause? Of course. You know, Of course, the wider community can be a part of our cause. However, at the same time, we got to remember, as Muslims, right? Justice is justice. It's justice for, as Malcolm X said, is justice for everybody or justice for nobody. That's Islam. You understand? Black people have always accepted the cause of all the Muslims historically, and up until this day, we never, ever, ever look down. I don't remember a single case of a Black person looking down at the cause of another Muslim ever. It's always other Muslims who look down at us, and it's never the opposite, right? So yes, of course, you know what I mean? And in my opinion, there is a change coming, right? So, however, how far this change will go will obviously depend on the mentality as the people as a whole, which is why I did this particular video. There's a reason why Black people are being mass produced as big niggas and bitches and hoes. There's a specific reason why that is. And as long as you emulate that behavior, again, a nigger doesn't build nothing. A bitch don't build nothing. A hoe don't build nothing. All they can do is follow their desires. That's it. You never read no books for no bitches or hoes, ever. You know what I mean? All this shucking and jiving and tap dancing and, what you call it? Entertaining yourself while the community suffers, that needs to stop, man. We got work to do. We have a lot of work to do. See, so the North America was free from slavery. I did not know this. The North of America was, no, that's not true. They had slavery in the North. There was actually slavery in the North, right? However, it was in the textile industry, right? It wasn't the, in the farms, right? As a matter of fact, even up all the way up in Canada, there was slavery. But of course, back in those days, they didn't call it Canada. It was like the British colonies, right? There were cases where slaves would escape to Canada, right, through the Underground Railroad and whatnot, and they would believe that they're free, and some of the farmers in Canada would tell them to work on their farm, but what they were doing was they were re-enslaving them in Canada, right? The free states, yeah. Okay, how can the community build itself political and economic capital independently to allow itself to disconnect from the state of the oppressor? This is why we need the smart people to kind of like get together and solve this for us. But it also requires the community at large to get behind their leadership. What happens in the Black community historically is that there's always infiltrators in our community who turn the general masses against the leaders in the community. It happened with Bilal Phillips. It happened with Abdul Hakim Quick. It happened with recently with Abu Toba, right? And I blasted Wajdi for that. And you can see the series, how I blasted that guy, right? They always try to separate the Black vote from their leaders for trivial things. You understand? And Black people, they go for it because of the lack of knowledge and whatnot. Remember, Islam is relatively new in the West. You feel me? So these people who become Muslim, they become Muslim because they love Allah, they love Islam, and then there are these shayateen on that straight path, turning them this way and that way while they don't know. And that's exactly what happened in the Black community. Okay, Ikhwan and Akhwat, Jazakumullah khair. Sorry for the late start. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little tired, right? But that's what I wanted to share with you today. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Hit me up on Patreon. Subhanakallah bihamdik wa shara li ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.